You know, I love to hunt. I love the outdoors. I love the opportunity to get out and enjoy, you know, what's been brought to us, and that leads me to part of the reason why I've become a chef, and especially a wild game chef. The first experiences that your kids have, or that you guys have, whether you eat game or you don't, and it's like that with a lot of different dishes that you get to try. You know, when first time you try it, if it's bad, you're turned off on it. And I remember I had that over at my aunt's house, and it really sucks. And my wife's done that so many times, and her mother's a great cook, but she'll eat stuff now that, of course, your taste changed too. But she'll eat stuff now. I said, don't you tell your mother that you're eating that now if you didn't eat it when you were a kid. But anyway, when I talk about and when I work, you can go ahead and take that back to them.
Ah, cool.
And they're going to go ahead and start plating that up. Thank you very much. But what I was going to say is, with game and with specific types of ingredients that you're cooking, wild game, when it's harvested, so many times is done under stress, and you end up with a lot of enzymes in the meat. You end up with a lot of things in the meat that need to be removed before it's going to be prepared. And people a lot of times don't understand that. They say, well, I took good care of it and I iced it down, and which they did. They took great care of it. But not understanding how important it is to remove those elements from the meat before you even consider cooking it is of great concern, because it's going to taste like flying liver because of what's in it. And I don't mean to be detrimental about it, but it's really true. And I talk to groups, Ducks Unlimited, I talk to CCA, and I've known duck hunters that have hunted 20, 25 years of their life or more and never kept a duck because their first experience was horrible. And so you want to kind of keep that in mind. And what I do when and Zadel can kind of contest to that, or attest to that. It's been great working with him, by the way. We ham and egg it on the phone a lot. I'll bounce recipes off of him. And what do you think about what we're talking about as far as that?
Look, the biggest mistake, two biggest mistakes people make with game is A, it properly in the field, and B, overcooking it once they get it home. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and that's a very good point, Zadel. You know, wild game is what we call a super lean meat. Unless it's been hanging under a feeder eating corn for 6 months, which a lot of them do, it's going to be on the lean side, and which is good for us because, number one, there's no hormones in it. There's nothing really bad in the meat. But you have to reintroduce fat or oil back into the meat so you can save the natural juices in there and have those flavors when you're going to actually enjoy it when you're cooking it. Agreed?
Absolutely. The driest meat you'll ever eat is venison that's been cooked without prepping it, as he's
talking about that too. Is remember me mentioning and being around a feeder and having fat on the edge of it. Well, when we buy something in the store and we freeze it, it's okay for it to have fat on it. If you have wild game and it's got fat on it, you need to remove any of that that's on the meat before you freeze it, or it will rancid in the freezer. And people don't realize that. They're thinking, as long as I cut it off before I cook it, I'll be okay. No, you got to get it off of that meat before you even freeze it. If you don't do that, you're going to find that no matter what you do, you're still going to have a flavor in there you're not looking for, and it's because that meat's already going south on you.
Yep. And as he said, any wild game, before you cook it, if there's any fat, it'll have very, very little, but it will not be marbled fat. It won't be within the muscle fibers, okay? It'll be external to it. If it's got any on it at all, and I don't care what it is, I don't care if it's duck, turkey, venison, whatever. If you find any fat at all, cut it off immediately. Get rid of it.
Wild hog?
Yeah, oh yeah. Actually, I've found more instances of fat, especially around the liver, on some of those game-fed deer than I've ever found on a feral hog.
Okay. You know, while we're on the subject of game, I want to mention another thing that was brought up a little ways back while I was at an event with the guys from the magazine, and it's a very important thing. If you guys ever have the opportunity to have feral hog, and first thing when you hear it, you're going, ooh, but I mean, it's awesome. But the thing is when you're cleaning a wild feral hog, there's a disease called brucellosis that they can carry. And if it's cooked, you're not going to have a problem with it. But you need to make sure you're wearing gloves when you clean it. If you don't, you're going to run a very good possibility of getting sick. And you need to respect that when you are doing it. I mean, I didn't mean run a hose over it. That ain't going to save it. I mean, you need to make sure you have on a good pair of gloves. If a glove pops or something, put another one on. Because you want to make sure that you're completely protected from that while you're cleaning it. Once you get that off, you know, you're okay. And then you need to just make sure you handle it like you would any other pork dish that they're going to work with.
Any pork that you handle or cook, always cook it thoroughly, because there's another little gotcha that you can get from undercooked pork called trichinosis, which is a parasitic infection. You can also get trichinosis from bear meat, and if I remember correctly, you can get it from cougar.
Now, when did you eat a cougar?
You've never eaten cougar?
No.
I have eaten cougar. I've eaten alligator.
Gross.
No, it's not. You ever been to Mexico?
That's a cat, dude.
You ever been to Mexico?
Long time ago.
Do you have any tacos?
Thanks, Didal.
Taco de gato?
Appreciate that.